she told me after. That was the thing. Not during, not a heads-up text, not a quiet word in a hallway while it was happening, not even a look across the room that might have served as warning or invitation, or at least acknowledgement that something significant had just been said. After 2 hours after, in the car on the way home, with the heater running and the city doing its late-night thing outside the windows, and her sitting in the passenger seat with her shoes off and my jacket still on. And she said it the way she said necessary things, without preamble, without apology, factual. Danny asked me tonight who I was seeing. I said, "What did you tell him?" She said, "You." I kept my eyes on the road for a moment. Then I said, "Okay." She said, "He seemed to find it believable." I said, "I'm a believable person." She turned and looked at me in the passenger seat with her knees pulled up and my jacket around her shoulders, and the particular expression she had when she was waiting to see what I would do with something she'd given me. I could see her in my peripheral vision. I was choosing not to look directly. "It wasn't planned," she said. "I know," I said. He asked, and I said the first thing that came out, she said. "I know," I said. And then he believed it, she said. And then I had to continue, briefly. "How briefly?" I said. A pause. "I told him we'd been together for 4 months, she said. I looked at the road. 4 months, I said. It came out very naturally, she said. I was surprised. Were you? A little, she said. I drove for a while. The heater ran. She had her feet on my dashboard, which she always did, and which I had given up objecting to 2 years ago. "Rowan," I said. "Yes," she said. 4 months came out naturally, I said. "Yes," she said. "Not 2 months," I said. "Not 6 months. 4. She was quiet. "Why 4? I said. She looked at the window, then back at me. "I don't know," she said. It was what felt true. I kept my eyes on the road. "Okay," I said. "Okay," she said. We drove the rest of the way home not talking, which was not unusual for us at midnight after a party, except that this particular silence had a different weight than the usual kind, and we both knew it, and neither of us was going to do anything about it tonight. She gave me back the jacket at her door. I took it home and hung it up and stood in my kitchen for a while. 4 months. My name is Will Ashford. I am 32 years old. I work in structural engineering. I spend my days calculating the loads that built things must carry, the forces they must resist, the margins between what holds and what gives way. It is precise work that rewards attention to invisible stresses, and I have been doing it long enough that I notice strain before failure in most things, which is a professional skill that transfers imperfectly to the rest of life. I live in a 2-bedroom apartment, the second bedroom now a home office with a drafting table I use less than I should, and a couch I use more. I run on Thursday mornings. I cook competently. I own exactly 1 jacket that is worth anything, which is a dark navy wool thing I bought 4 years ago when I decided to own 1 jacket that was worth anything. And Rowan had borrowed it at the door on the way to the party because she had been cold, and I had offered it without thinking about it, and she had put it on, and we had left. She had been wearing it for 3 hours by the time Danny asked. Her name was Rowan Callister. She was 30. She worked in brand strategy. She helped companies understand what they were actually saying versus what they meant to say, which was a job that required a very precise ear for the gap between intention and communication. She was very good at it. She was also, I had observed over 4 years of close friendship, occasionally oblivious to gaps in her own communication, which I found both maddening and endearing. We had met at a mutual friend's birthday dinner 4 years ago, seated next to each other by the specific randomness of assigned seating. And she had spent the first 20 minutes arguing with the menu and the next 3 hours talking to me. And at the end of the evening, she had said, with the directness she said most things, "You're very easy to talk to. I'm going to keep doing that." And she had. She was a person I talked to every day, not always at length, sometimes a single message, a photograph of something she'd seen, a one-line observation that required no response and received one anyway. The texture of my daily life had rearranged itself around her presence, in the specific way that happens when someone has been close for long enough that their absence would not be a loss, but a structural failure. The kind I calculated for a living. She had short, dark hair she wore differently depending on the week, and dark eyes that moved quickly over things she was interested in and went patient and still when she was listening to something that mattered to her. And she borrowed things without asking in the way that only people who have earned the borrowing do. She had borrowed my jacket 3 times before tonight. The first time she had given it back the same night. The second time I had found it on her coat hook a week later when I was at her apartment and taken it back without mentioning it. The third time she had returned, it laundered, which had been unexpected and which I had not commented on. The fourth time she was still wearing it when she told Danny we were together. The existing dynamic between us had the shape of something that had been tending toward a thing for a while without arriving, which is a description I had access to and had filed in the category of things I would not be examining. We were close. We were very close. We were the kind of close where other people occasionally asked, with varying degrees of tact, whether we were sure, and we said yes in the way that people say yes when the question is inconvenient rather than incorrect. Danny was her ex of 14 months prior. They had been together for 2 years. The relationship had ended, I understood, because she had been very clear about what she wanted from the future, and he had been very unclear about whether he wanted the same things. And the unclearness had taken 2 years to resolve into a no, which was the specific kind of no that is also a waste, and they had both known it. She did not speak about him with bitterness. She spoke about him with the precise disappointment of someone who had wanted a thing to be different and had eventually accepted that it was what it was. He had been at the party. I had known he might be. I had handed her my jacket at the door. I have poor survival instincts around women who borrow my things. I had been at the party for the first hour before she arrived. I had been having the conversation you have at parties when you arrive before the people you came for, which is a functional conversation about nothing in particular. And then she had come through the door, and the jacket had been the first thing I saw because it was mine, and she was wearing it, and she had found me across the room and smiled in the way she smiled when she found me in a room, which was a specific smile I had stopped examining the precise nature of. The party was the party. We had done what we did at parties, circulated together, split apart, found each other again, the natural orbit of 2 people who know they are each other's orientation point in a room of people. I had gotten her 1 drink, and she had gotten me the next one without asking. At some point, I had seen Danny across the room, and had processed this information, and had kept the processing brief, and had not mentioned it to her. She had found out eventually, because Danny had found her. I had not been there for the conversation. I had been on the other side of the room talking to someone about something I could not now recall. And when I looked up, she was talking to Danny, and she was wearing my jacket, and her posture had the specific quality it had when she was being very precise about something. The conversation had lasted 7 minutes by my estimate. She had come to find me after. "Let's go," she had said. I had said, "Okay." We had said our goodbyes and gotten our coats, mine being already occupied, and gone to the car. She had said nothing on the walk to the car, which was not unusual, and had said nothing for the first 20 minutes of the drive, which was also not unusual. And then she had told me. Danny asked me tonight who I was seeing. You. He seemed to find it believable. The next morning she texted at 8:30. I've been thinking. I was making coffee. I looked at the message for a moment. So have I wrote back. About the 4 months thing. Yes, I wrote. I want to explain it. You don't have to, I wrote. I want to, she wrote. Can I come over? She came over at 9. She was wearing her own jacket. She sat at my kitchen table with the coffee I made her, and she held it with both hands and the way she held hot things, which was a thing I knew about her, or the way I knew how she took her coffee and which way she turned her head when she was listening. She said, when he asked, I didn't think. I just said it. And then I thought about it afterward on the drive, and I've been thinking about it since, and I need to tell you what I think it means. All right, I said. She looked at the coffee. I think 4 months came out because 4 months ago is when something changed, she said. Not between us exactly. Inside me. Something shifted 4 months ago and I filed it because I was afraid of what it meant, and I've been carrying it since. I sat across from her at my kitchen table and said nothing, because this was one of those moments where the only correct thing was to let her finish. 4 months ago, she said, you were sick. The bad flu, the one that lasted 2 weeks. And I came over with food because that's what I do, and you were on the couch and you looked terrible, and I stayed and made soup, which I also do. She stopped. But while I was making it, you fell asleep on the couch, and I looked at you, and I had a thought I'd never had before. What thought? I said. She looked at me. That I wanted to still be doing this in 20 years, she said. Bringing you soup, making it in your kitchen, knowing where you keep things. She set the mug down very carefully, the way she set things down when she was being precise. And I thought, that's not what friends think. And then I thought, I am not going to do anything about that. And then I filed it, and I went back to making soup, and you woke up and ate it, and I went home. The kitchen was very quiet. You filed it, I said. I've had the file for 4 months, she said. It's gotten quite large. Something in my chest moved in the way things move when they have been still for a long time. Rowan, I said. I know, she said. I know what I'm saying. I didn't come here without knowing what I was saying. The jacket, I said. She looked at me. You put it on at the door, I said. And I handed it to you and I watched you put it on and I had a thought. What thought? She said. That it looked right, I said. You in that jacket. That there was something about it that looked right. And I didn't examine that because I was not going to examine that. And then all night I kept looking over and seeing you in it and having the same thought I wasn't examining. She held very still, the listening kind. 4 months ago, I said, when you came over, with the soup. She waited. I woke up and you were in my kitchen, I said. And there was soup. And I had a thought that I also filed. What thought? She said, very quietly. That the apartment felt different when you were in it, I said. That it had a quality when you were there that it didn't have when you weren't. And that quality was what I would call right. The way things feel when they're right. I stopped. And then I ate the soup and you went home, and I filed it, and I've had the file for 4 months. She looked at me across my kitchen table with 4 months of filed things between us and my jacket on her coat hook at home, and a party the night before, where she had told her ex we were together 4 months ago, which was the most accurate thing she had ever accidentally said. We've both had the file for 4 months, she said. Yes, I said. And neither of us opened it, she said. No, I said. Until Danny, she said. Until Danny, I said. She looked at her coffee, then at me. I'm angry at Danny for a lot of things, she said. But I think I might be grateful for this one. Don't tell him that, I said. It'll give him ideas. She laughed. Not the polite kind, the real one. Brief and surprised. The kind that arrives before the considered version and exits the same way. I had been collecting the real laugh for 4 years. Not deliberately. Just the way you collect the things that matter. Will, she said. I know, I said. I need you to say it, she said. The actual thing. I need to hear you say it so I know I haven't. You haven't, I said. You haven't misread anything. She held my gaze. I have had the file for 4 months, I said. And it started with soup and a jacket, and a thought I was very committed to not examining. And last night when he asked you and you said me, I had 2 hours in the car where I was very much not thinking about it. And then I went home and stood in my kitchen thinking about exactly what it meant that 4 months came out of you without a decision. What did you decide? She said. That it's been true longer than 4 months, I said. And that we've both been careful and the carefulness has run out of road. She was quiet for a moment. Then she got up from the table, which surprised me, and she crossed the small kitchen space and stopped in front of me. And she looked at me with the full directness. She looked at things she had decided were worth looking at directly. Okay, she said. Okay, I said. She leaned forward and kissed me once. Carefully and completely. The way you do something that has been true for longer than you admitted, and is now simply being allowed to be true out loud. I put my hand against the side of her face, and she put both of hers on the table beside me, and we stayed like that for a moment in my kitchen at 9 in the morning with the coffee going cold. She pulled back. She looked at me. The jacket, she said. Yes, I said. I'm going to keep borrowing it, she said. I know, I said. I'm telling you so it's not a surprise, she said. It has never been a surprise, I said. You've borrowed it 4 times. I've never objected. You objected to the feet on the dashboard, she said. The jacket is different, I said. Why? She said. I thought about her coming through a door and the jacket being the first thing I saw because it was mine, and she was wearing it, and the specific thought I had not examined. Because it looks right, I said. She looked at me with 4 years of borrowed things and daily texts and soup in a sick man's kitchen and a party where she said the most accidentally true thing she'd ever said. And she smiled. The full version. The one I had been not examining for 4 years and was now simply looking at. Yeah, she said. It does. 3 weeks later, we went to another party. She wore the jacket again. This time I watched her put it on at the door with the full awareness of what I was watching, which was different from before in the way that most things were different now, not changed, just seen clearly for the first time, which is its own kind of change. At the party, someone who knew us both said, "How long have you two been together?" She looked at me. 4 months, she said. I looked at her. Give or take, she said. She turned back to the person. It's complicated to pin down exactly. It's really not, I said. It is a little, she said. It's not, I said. She smiled. I could see it in profile. 4 months had been the most accurate thing she'd ever accidentally said. We had decided, without formally deciding, to keep it. It was close enough to true in the ways that mattered. 4 months since the file. 4 months since the soup and the jacket and the thoughts we'd been carrying. 4 months since something had shifted and neither of us had said so. Close enough. 6 months after the first party, she left a jacket at my apartment. Not mine, hers, a gray one. Left on the hook beside the door, in the specific way things end up in a shared space, when the space has become shared without paperwork. I left it there. She left it there. It became part of the apartment, the way she had been becoming part of the apartment for months. Incrementally, and then completely. A year on, when people asked about us, I told them, we were best friends for 4 years, and then she borrowed my jacket and told her ex we were together. I said it plainly because the plain version was the whole story. She always said, he handed me the jacket without hesitating, and I wore it all night, and it felt right, and I should have known then, but I was filing things. I always said, she was always going to get there eventually. She always said, Danny helped. I always said, we don't talk about Danny. She always said, Danny is the reason we're together. I always said, we really don't talk about Danny. We had this argument with the ease of people who have had it before and intend to have it again and like having it, which is what some arguments between some people are. Not conflict, but a kind of warmth. The proof that the other person knows exactly where the line is and will walk right up to it anyway. She borrowed the jacket for as long as jackets last. I bought another one when the time came. She borrowed that one too. What would you have done? Would you have asked what she meant by 4 months? Or let it sit in the car the whole drive home? And have you ever said something to someone else that turned out to be truer than you knew? And understood only after that you'd been carrying the truth the whole time without opening it? Tell me in the comments. If this one made you smile, leave a like, subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.